terror while in second hour. We finished our work early, so we turned on the TV. The first thing we saw was the Pentagon burning. The only thing I could think of was, does this mean war? The bell rang, and we went to third hour. There, we watched TV for the whole hour. I learned the American trade towers were hit. The sight was horrifying. It looked like something you only see in the movies. It was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe someone would do this. All those poor people. What did they do to deserve that? As I came home, I remember turning on the TV and seeing all those channels covering the terror. I remember thinking about how I always thought I would never live to see a war, but now I might. I'm the type of person who is against war, but if that is the only way to protect our country and people, I'm all for it. We're not too sure if this is an act from a country or just terrorists. We don't need to make any fast judgments, but hopefully, by the time you read this, there will have been no war or any more damage done to America. Keep the peace, and maybe you won't have to witness the things I saw.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
When I first heard of the attack on the World Trade Center, I was in second hour science class. I was in a state of disbelief. I was at first afraid for the people in the building, but then I began to think of my family in the military and wonder if they were going to have to go to war. My reaction to seeing the plane slam into the World Trade Center was a sickening feeling. I could not believe that a man could be this cruel. I was appalled that anyone dare attack innocent people in a nation which is widely believed to have the strongest military in the world. When I heard that the Pentagon was also under attack, I knew that there would be hell to pay for whoever did this, that we would soon be fighting World War III. I was shocked that any terrorist, no matter how powerful, would attack the military headquarters of the strongest nation in the world. I was not a supporter of President Bush during the 2000 election. However, I did not see the crisis as any time for the U.S. to be divided, whether they were Democratic or Republican, but to come together and fight against the inhumanity and the ignorance of the people who did this. I loathe terrorists who are, as are in this case, are faceless. Terrorists is the primary example of everything that is wrong with our world. Now the U.S. will change it forever. My biggest fear right now is that if we go to war, which I'm convinced we will, that not only will American soldiers be killed, but more American civilians. I believe that we should go to war because I think it is the only way to fight not only these terrorists, but all terrorists. We must make an example of the people who did this. We need to show them and any other terrorist what happens when they challenge a country as strong, proud, and great as ours is.
Yesterday was September 11th, 2001. Our World Trade Center was hit by 2 planes, killing thousands of people. Then another went down in Pittsburgh. There was another plane that went down in the Pentagon. All of the planes were hijacked by, well, no one knows for sure. We think that it was bin Laden. I was in the second hour when the first plane hit. It was so scary. It was like a movie. It didn't seem real. President Bush's response was to do anything necessary to stop it. That really scared me because I didn't want to go to war, because it could get really scary. My heart started to pound every time the principal comes over the intercom, because I never know what she's going to say. I feel that terrorism is a horrible thing.
I will never forget what happened yesterday. The thought of something so tragic was unreal. Around 8:45 a.m., a hijacked plane crashed into one of the World Trade Center buildings. Shortly after that, another plane crashed into the other World Trade Center. The twin buildings were so damaged, they both collapsed. While this accident happened, another hijacked plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. A hijacked plane crashed in an open field near Pittsburgh. Every news channel and radio station had non-stop coverage on what had happened. It was soon obvious that this was a terrorist attack. I hope we get revenge. God bless America.
On September 11, 2001, there was a terrible event that took place. At 8:48 a.m., there was a hijacked plane that hit the World Trade Center. The plane was very big, 767 or 757. This was a suicide mission that killed thousands of people. After the first hit, there was another unexpected hit to the other World Trade Center. This building collapsed first, with the first building to be hit falling second. Firefighters were inside the building trying to help people make it out. Hundreds of firefighters were killed when these buildings collapsed. There is still some hope that people are still alive under all the debris on the ground. When the building collapsed, there was a huge amount of smoke that filled the town. People cannot live very long in this air if it gets into your lungs. People that were in the streets ran from the smoke. There is a picture of people on the floors that were hit hanging out of the windows, jumping out to save their lives. After all of these devastations, there is another building hit. This building was called the Pentagon, where military offices are at. People think that this one section that was hit had 800 people die, at least. Everyone is wondering who could do such a terrible thing. All those innocent people on the planes and in the buildings have now died. People are finding out about cell phones being used from the planes before they crashed. Those people have said that the hijackers used knives. This terrible act has made our country wonder whether we are safe. This is all the information that I know happened on September 11, 2001.
Another date that will live in infamy. The U.S. was attacked by a person unknown at this time. At about 8:48, a Boeing 767 airplane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. 20 minutes later, a second plane crashed into the South Tower. At about 9:20 a.m., a Boeing 757 crashed into the Pentagon, America's military department. While this was going on, the World Trade Center was collapsing. While all these buildings were going down, a fourth plane was turned around in about Cleveland and crashed in an area about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh on its way to D.C. All major sports were closed down for the day. Major League Baseball shut down all games for the first time since D-Day. President Bush has vowed to find and punish the party responsible. The main suspect right now is Bin Laden from Afghanistan.
September 11th, 2001, the day of horrors. It was a horrible day for all Americans. Our worst fears have come true. 4 planes were hijacked and taken to very important places in America. 2 were crashed into the World Trade Center towers, 1 into the Pentagon, and 1 crashed in Pennsylvania. It was a terrorist attack on America. This attack hurt every American in the heart. It was a very hard day in every American home. The first World Trade Center had been hit. Then, when everyone was looking at the building, the other World Trade Center was hit. In Washington, D.C., the Pentagon was hit. The first World Trade Center tumbled, and shortly after, the other tower tumbled to the ground. It was a horrible sight to look at. Many people died on the planes that crashed, and thousands of people that worked in the Pentagon and the World Trade Center also died. It was a very hard time for Americans. The president told our country that he would hurt whomever did this in the country that harbors them. I think this is a horrible act. Whoever did this should be punished very much. They killed many innocent people and changed our world as we know it today. Tuesday, September 11th, was the worst day maybe in American history. This will definitely be remembered for a very long time. Everything has been changed. Security, peace, and it may even start a war. Life as we love it right now will never be the same.